So our project today is about making a gnome home out of clay. So at your tables, you'll see I've got these different directions to show you. We're going to be making the body of the house as well as the roof. And then you can cut out little shapes like, a window or where you want the main entrance to be. So those type of shapes I've got here. And so as you can look at it, you can make, a shape like this and draw your texture on. You can add on little pieces or a little chimney. Some of those things, when you do it, make sure that it's not thicker than your thumb, because that's when something can explode. If there's an air bubble in it, it takes longer to dry. So those are the types of things to think about. So it has to be thin. Typically, you make like a cylinder, or you can make a coil, and that's fine. Just, I don't want it really big. And then we'll go in and add texture. So what you're going to get is this large slab. I've already cut it and rolled it for you. And then at your table, you're going to find you have two templates, one that says the house and one that's for the roof. So once you get your house done, then you can come back up and get the next one in order to make your roof. But before we get the next one, you have to put the house body together. It just works easier that way. You'll also find you've got a clay knife in order to help with the tracing of the cutting. You will have a skewer at your table. This is to act as your clay pencil, so you're able to draw what you need. And then you'll also have two other types of tools. One is a toothbrush. The way to think about it is you brush your teeth for your teeth to stay in your mouth. And when you need to attach something, like say your roof to the house, you want it to stick. So you need to brush it, and it's called scoring and slipping. And what it does is, imagine, you go to put your hands together, but you instead just put them on top like this. As it dries, they slide apart. So when you use the toothbrush, it makes all these scratches, which then you put it together and you pull it apart and it sticks. So that's kind of the score and slip technique that we use, and I just use it this way. You'll also find this little cup has a sponge inside with water, and what you do is you put one, or sometimes I push two, and you see when I push down there's water. That is in order to wet the project. So if there's like a big sharp edge or texture, you could just gently use this in order to smooth it out. And as you can clearly see, the water, when it touches this, turns this into a clay slip, which is it's dirt, which if I took the sponge out, I don't want you to do that. You can see at the bottom of it, there's a bunch of this clay slip. So it acts like its own glue to itself. All right, so as we're working, let's do these in steps and stages. The goal today is to make the house body and then be able to cut out the door, the windows, and hopefully get to the roof as well. So, I forgot to mention, I am only wearing gloves because when you are playing with clay every single day for hours, because I do my clay week, clay needs water. It is always thirsty. That's how it stays in this form, but it can also get into that liquid form. So when you're touching it over and over for hours and hours a day, it takes all the moisture out of your hands. And my hands get very cracked when I'm doing this, for a whole week straight, every single hour. So I'm wearing it just to help protect my hands, but you might find that I don't have it on when I have your class, or I have it on when I need to just put some lotion, but you will be fine. All right, so when I'm using this, I'm going to put my template on, and all I'm going to do is cut all the way through. It's acting like a tracer. I'm tracing my house. And don't worry if it's not exact. You can always go back and cut it that way. I'm only holding this down so that way it doesn't try to move like crazy on me. So once I'm done with the template, I give it to somebody else, and then I will pull off this extra clay. This extra clay is not to go home, and we don't really want to play with it, because the more we play with it, the more it dries, and then it needs a good 24 hours for me to get more moisture back in it so that it's in the right way to use. I use this to make other pieces of slabs like this for everybody else, and we use every bit of clay. The reason this does not go home is because when the clay dries, it gets very chalky. As you can kind of see, it's starting on my table in spots. And that clay dust is not healthy for you to breathe long term. This entire thing will turn into clay dust. So unless you have a very special oven known as a kiln, this cannot be taken home. So I know everybody always asks, I'm letting you know. This goes back in my extra clay bag, which then I use for the next class. All right, so I set that to the side. This is my house body. When you look at it, we're not going to fold it like skinny to put it together. This is instead going to turn into the house shape like this. As you can see, we're gonna make this really cute, pretty one here. And so what I want us to do is we need to score and slip it. You'll also notice that some of these cracks start to form. So as you're bending it, you might need to use your fingers, and not a lot, because if you make this too slippery, it's going to turn into mush and then it really won't work, and you don't want to do that to yourself. You just want to use just enough. See, that little bit on my fingers has been able to work through all of this, and you can see how slippery that is already. All right, and don't worry, the cracks happen and then we'll work through it. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is use our toothbrush. Don't worry if this is starting to crack, just kind of push it back together. It'll be fine, as you can see even on my project. And I'm going to brush this. My brush, I'm just getting it more wet so you can see. And then I'm gonna put some brush lines. It's very quick, I don't need a lot. And then I will take this and fold it and squish it on to it, like this here. You want to keep, I know this keeps cracking here. You want to keep it as close as you can together. And then you're gonna use your finger to smooth, like my hands are inside, to smooth it like this. I'm just gonna smooth it over, smooth it over, smooth it over, like that, and up and down like this. So you can see I've got this nice, beautiful shape, okay? And I'm gonna try to make this balanced on the top here. Inside, I'm gonna use my fingers to kind of what I do is I'm pulling it over so you can't see those lines on the inside either. Same thing on this side, I'm gonna use my thumb, I'm just gently pulling it. I don't want this to get too thin because that's when it'll break and that'll make us all sad. Okay, so I try my best to get all the way inside there, as you can see. And then now I can look and go, okay, where are my cracks? I'm gonna get my fingers wet and I'm gonna smooth out those cracks, kind of get that water on there so it's nice and happy. Yay. I can stick my hand in and I'm just going to get that water to make it nice and happy again so that all the little cracks go away. And if you find there's one spot that has more cracks than the other, well, that's the perfect side to do your door, right? Where you're gonna cut that out anyways. So I'm gonna turn this and I just kind of gently smooth it all out like such. Okay, wonderful. Some of those other cracks, don't worry. We're gonna add texture in anyways. So we want some cracks when we go in. All right, so now that I've got this done, that is the start of my gnome home. And what we're gonna do is we wanna cut out our door or our window. So I can see, looking at this, that I probably want to cut out a, an oval shape like this. So I'm just gonna gently take this and go in, and I'm gonna cut this shape out. So there's my door to get into my beautiful home. Okay, and I probably want a window, so I'm gonna turn it, and I'm always protecting where I'm going. So I think if I want to do a heart window, I'm going to just turn and make a heart, try my best. You're cutting in, you're going nice and slow, and I cut out that shape. Yay! All right, and I can easily just go in and just kind of smooth out any of those areas. We don't want little sharp bits because when it dries, it gets really sharp. All right, so now I have my window and I have my door. If there's something that you want to add onto it, like I really like this heart shape, I want to add it right here in the front. Well, that's something you can do. You just need to, get it nice and scrubbed, scrub the back, and then you gently push it. Always support the back, push it on, okay? And there I have the body of my piece. So I've got it nicely on there, and I have the window. And then the next thing that you'll do is I have this amazing tool. And so with this tool, I'm just going to draw some lines to make some texture on my pretty house. La la la, la la la. We don't need a lot of texture, just a bit. Okay, so now that I got my texture, I can also, for this one, I'm just going to poke some holes in it so it just dries a little faster. And I think it'll look pretty and fun. All right, so I got some holes. And now that part is done, what I'm going to also do is on this very bottom side here, I'm going to put my initials when I'm all done with this. So I just want you to be, cautious and careful of always having, even if you wrote it, to just make sure that you check it later. All right, so now that I'm done with that, I'm going to go and grab my next slab in order to make the roof. All right, so now that you've got your second slab of clay, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to trace with your knife parts. These go back in your tray as you're using them to share with your table. But I'm going to push all the way through, and I'm going to make my roof. And so with this, I'm going to get rid of my scraps on the side here. Just kind of make a big, here I'll show you in the video, a big plunk. This gets for somebody else. And now what we're going to do is I have two sides. One side from my roller, you'll see more texture, and one side's a little bit more smooth. So I want to have the smooth side more on top. And what this cut part is for us to kind of squish this together. So same thing, we're going to, whatever's going to get squished together needs to be brushed, okay? And I'm going to stick it together like such. And then I'm going to just smooth over with my thumb, just like we were doing before, for our roof. And again, cracks are going to show. It's okay. Like, this is big. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. That's where you just go and get your water, because all it's saying is, hey, I'm dry. And yours will be better than mine. Mine is currently, I'm using some clay from last year that just needs a little bit more moisture, so I'll have yours ready to rock and roll for you. But mine just needs that, and I don't have, I have my gloves on, so the gloves just make it harder for the clay to drink up some more water from my hands. All right, so now that I've gone through, I've really smoothed out each of these different cracks. I look in the inside. I want to use my finger to do that, to just kind of smooth it all out together. Okay, and this is where it goes on top of my house, right, like such, right? So I need to look and go, okay, I'm going to give it a little push, and I'm going to peel it off, and I'm going to go, where did it land on here? I can see that lines here. So I'm going to take this and just brush it around where I see those lines. I'm going to give it a nice little brush on the top here too. Brush, 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 brush. I don't need a lot, it's just a little bit. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll put it on here and put a nice little push. And that should connect my pieces together really well, because I gave it a nice little pressure push, as you can see. Okay, so now I have my little mushroom home top up here. And then what I'm going to do is, so you can see how it looks. It's very cute. The next thing that we're going to do is, if you wanted to, look again at some of those designs that you see on here. I might want to put a little ball, so using my extra clay, I'm going to make a tiny little ball, okay? And I'm going to put that on the top, give it a little scratchy, and kind of just give it some pressure so it sticks on. All right. You definitely want it to stick. If you just put it gently, it's going to fall off because it's going to dry anyways. Then you can look and go, okay, what type of texture do I want it to be? So for me, I might draw those different circles. But as I do it, these little pieces come off. I'm going to stick those on my extra clay. Okay. You can draw lines. You could draw some circles. Completely up to you. We're also going to paint these. So if we just get to the roof and the house part today, that's fine because you can actually paint the details a lot better than putting the details on. Any of these little pieces that stick out, just go back and kind of wipe them in or get them to roll off of it so that way they don't dry hard on there, okay? All right, so once you're done with it, check that your initials are still there. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna put it on our cart that you'll see that shows exactly what table color you are. So that way when it dries in 2 weeks' time, you're then able to glaze it. So I can't wait to see what your gnome homes look like.